abundance mindset, as we call it, isn't so much something that you do as it is something that happens to you as a consequence of being genuinely present with your experience. And by present, I mean in openness and acceptance of the experience as it is right now. So that doesn't mean that you're not also involved in the part of experience where you are exercising will on moving towards the object of your intention, but that you are also, you could say, psychologically embracing the reality as it unfolds moment to moment, right? So you're letting go of your attachment to outcomes, even as you move towards envisioned outcomes. And if you're doing that right, and you're in that meditative openness that feels very peaceful because it is a quintessential acceptance of who and what you are, the part of you that can't be defined with words. And we call it things like beingness or presence, or that feeling that I exist, right? So if I'm allowing myself to be immersed in that, in the embodied acceptance of it, then the part of myself that I use to perform actions in the same way my legs do, that I call desire, that part of myself that I call desire, that thing that happens, and we call it desire, right? It's not just like what we think it is, it's also what it happens to be and was before we ever came up with words about it. And it is something that has more complexity and depth than our words about it and our understanding of it. Anyway, that desire, it's a function of our being, right? Of our body, not just our physical body, but the part of our body that doesn't necessarily look like a body. What does it do? It falls into place in a more natural way. The same way, like you throw a fish into water, it's going to swim more naturally. You throw a being into beingness, a living creature into the present moment, it will just behave more intuitively and more naturally, more smoothly. And what desire starts to do is it starts to plug into objects that are here, right? So it's the abundance of the present moment. The present moment is abundant in all things because it's the only place where all things are. And if I'm letting what arises in my experience be what is connecting to my sense of desire, then my sense of desire will feel simultaneous to it being triggered a sense of fulfillment, and we call that gratitude. So if I'm present and I breathe in a breath of fresh air, and that happens to trigger my mind's more conscious awareness of fresh air being breathed in, how good that feels, then I'll feel the desire for fresh air and the gratitude for that breath. And so simultaneous to feeling desire, I will feel fulfillment of desire, gratitude for that spontaneous process and the free journey with no gap from desire to object. And so there's no separation between the two, right? And because there's no separation between the two, we don't really talk about them because they don't really need to be talked about per se, unless we're missing that. And so this is the other side of things. If I'm not present, just meaning if I'm really focused on or fixated on my thoughts and the content that my thoughts are trying to symbolize, like if I'm maybe short of breath, and then I start thinking about the idea of taking a deep breath of fresh air, then it triggers that sense of desire. but it has nothing tangible to plug into because it's not being given an environment that is real to try to move within, so to say, right? It's like a fish trying to swim through air. And so the movement happens, and so it feels like it's giving some reality to the object of desire in some way, and it's obviously very dissatisfying because there's just nothing that you can do. There's no possible feedback that tells you that you have completed the goal of that arising of this very mysterious energy that we don't fully understand, that we call desire. Well, and I don't know, maybe somebody understands it. I think that I don't, at least all the way. And so then, we become, we go into this mode of anxiety of I must fulfill this desire so that I can also not feel this anxiety, this sense of separation between myself and this other thing. And it gets difficult because that thing doesn't exist. And so then we have to manifest or discover its existence. And so that preoccupies our energy and our sense of fulfillment, right? So it's either that or you can learn to let it go. And that's a big part of like the medical side of something like meditation, is it's taking all of these background processes of unfulfilled desires that are trying to connect to thoughts, which are not representing anything that's actually in reality. They're just representing a potential, or they're representing themselves, but they're pretending to be what they're symbolizing. And if we can clear away these identifications with thoughts, or basically saying thoughts are real, right? If I'm identified with a thought, I know that the most real thing in my experience is me. It's always there. I can always count on it. It's the one thing that I'm always knowing. And so if I'm pretending that something else is just as real, I'm kind of unconsciously pretending that it is me. And so I'm pretending to be something that isn't actually there. And so it's like taking a step and there's no surface there, and you fall and you feel that like, anyway, yeah, so the thought identification creating that sense of missingness and dissatisfaction, and therefore chronic anxiety that can only be numbed or coped with or tranquilized with all of the different things, whether or not it's something like shopping or drugs or meditation or numbing out or self-help or spirituality or watching this video. It doesn't matter what you do. If the deep reason of why you're doing that, where it's coming from and where it's going, is like unwholesome in that sense, then you're turning the thing you're using into an anesthetizing agent. And so helpful, but ultimately only like a Band-Aid. So what I find is that letting go of identification with thoughts, finding a way to retract that feeling of ambition and desire towards all of these concepts. Now, that doesn't mean that you're closing yourself off to it, because that's doing the same thing in the opposite direction. Like, I'm still open to receiving $1 million. Hell yeah, I would love that, right? I feel like it can go without saying, but I notice like when I hear things like that, my mind will go like, oh, so I'm supposed to be like, nope, don't need money because I'm not attached to it anymore. But again, same thing, different side of the equation. And then after, you get really clear on letting go of those programs of unsatisfiable desire, then as you plug into the present moment, you'll just naturally, that openness will very naturally, intuitively, you don't even have to do anything or think about anything. It will just, it's almost like you've got like tendrils that have their own intelligence that just start noticing and picking up on all of the opportunities that come up moment to moment to moment that match your areas of openness that are kind of like unique to you. And so you start experiencing what we call synchronicity and magic and manifestation. And like whatever you think about those ideas or the metaphysics that uh, really promote them, like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you believe, because that kind of experience is happening, no matter how you break it down to yourself of why it happens. The at the end of the day, you're just open to what's here, and the part of you that naturally enjoys anything at all is able to continuously plug into what's here and instantly feel gratitude and fulfillment. And so then you just naturally start to flow in this continuous experience of abundance, right? Every moment has everything in it that satisfies my feelings of desire as they come up, spontaneously or otherwise. And with that, I am nourished in this way that cultivates my good qualities. And I don't have to do that. That's done by the nature of my environment nourishing me. And that capacity for nourishment is a product of me connecting to my environment in that open way. So it's a relational uh, paradigm, and it is it's like it's easier than effortless, because whether I do or don't exert effort, those things are happening despite me, really. Like it's like I can't escape that type of abundance. So usually, I don't know, when I hear the word abundance, I usually think of like a jungle and a lot of money and a lot of food. And I don't know, like that probably becomes a lot more possible, but you start to notice again, like that innate natural abundance everywhere. And like that's what we really want, right? Is to be in a state of abundance and in a relationship that is acknowledging abundance and feeling the reality of abundance. It's not something that we generate or imagine or cultivate or get better at. Anything that's here, anything you are, those are already here. You're already that, right? And so the question becomes, if I'm on a quest to embody my true self, is it something I do, or is it something I take a close look at and go, well, if it is me, if life is this way, and I'm trying to prove that to myself and understand what that is, then it can't be something that's journey, process, or transformation based. It has to be something that is the like retraction of whatever I've been doing that caused me to overlook or just for some reason choose to assume otherwise these realities. And so I can say, okay, well, what if I assume that things are already abundant, that I am already my true, higher, coolest, whatever, healed self? And then starting with that experimental assumption, how can I see what's there? And the more you do it, the more you are able to find that. You'll find what you're looking for, right? That's what our brains are like exclusively designed to do, is pick up on the patterns that validate the intention of our search. So let's see. Yeah, so again, you don't need thoughts to see truth. Thoughts are commentary. Words came way after truth existed, way after reality was a thing. We made up words, and they're changing all the time, and they mean something different to everyone. And they mean something different in every moment to us based on how we're feeling and what we want and where we're at in life. So it's not about coming up with the right description. It is if I can let go of my subscription, my investment in thoughts, and the attachment relationship that comes with them, that feeling that they're taking me somewhere that I need to get, which isn't here, and so it's not real, at least not yet, and so it doesn't matter anyway in this context. And then I can plug in and really, really let that connection to what is happening in my entire experience, body, sight, sound, thoughts, all of it. And like a flower, you could say, it will start to open back up because we're not in the windstorm of thoughts trying to pull us everywhere, and us hanging on to the leash of those dogs thinking it knows where we need to go, and it's not just trying to smell something weird in a bush. Yeah, and I mean, that's really it, right? It's so simple, and yet because every moment is kind of its own little Rubik's Cube of like, okay, why am I attached to this thought? Did I even notice that I am? What do I do? Okay, like there's this like kind of intuitive, somatic or energetic like process that maybe is a little different each time, especially at first. And so that makes it feel complicated, and that's why there's so many books and techniques and processes and medicines and all of these things that are ultimately like practice, getting the reps in, so we have the muscle memory, the psychological muscle memory of, oh, that's right, I remember how to do this because I did it on mushrooms and they made it really easy, and so I know it works, and I can replicate that process now of like, I can just let it go. I can feel what it feels like to not need this thing, whether it's like money or financial security or a partner, to stop feeling existential dread or stress or whatever else. It is possible. If you can imagine what it feels like to not need those things or to have those things and to not have whatever problems, then you can also let that feeling exist as your default in that moment. Again, it doesn't have to be like I can bring myself up to this imagined exciting high of having those things, but just to remove the low. The low is just as fabricated as the high, and they'll come and go on their own anyway. And so if we're attached to them, we get taken for a ride instead of basically being able to kind of skillfully respond to those moments like a surfer in the ocean. So yeah, it's simple, and it feels complicated until it doesn't, and it works. So yeah, something to consider.